Please be seated. Thank you very much. You folks met the bishop yet? I'm way not your bishop. I'm a little wild and crazy. It's great to be back in Holy Trinity, one of my favorite places. You guys have given me a home in the diocese, literally, and I'm tremendously thankful to you. Some folk I recognize helped put together the office, the deacon's office, so that I could have meetings here. And I'm not as here as much as I was earlier, but I was here quite a bit, meeting folk. Everybody needs to see the new bishop, right, when he first got here. So now nobody needs to see me, or as much anyway, so that's good. But this is just it's a great location to set up shop. So thank you for your graciousness. Shar, where does she go?
Thank you.
Thank you. She's a great hostess and has always been wonderful and welcoming. And thank you so much. I'm glad you're here and feeling better. I got a big shout out to my man Jim Croom. He is a dean extraordinaire, rector, pretty okay. You'll keep him. I think you're doing pretty good. You got a good one right here. And of course, as I've said before, all clergy spouses go straight to heaven. Stephanie, in your Carolina blue today. Congratulations on your nice trip last night. We watched the ball game. I know. That was nice. That was a nice comeback. I mean, after the other earlier game of the year, to win it in Cameron, that's good. In front of the crazies, the Cameron crazies. Yeah. So congratulations. Brad, thank you so much for your continued service here as deacon. I appreciate what you do and your leadership. It's been tremendous. We'll come back to you in a minute. No, good. It's okay. He's good. He's blushing. Look at him. You never know. You're fine. Good. So I have a lot of ground to cover, and I want to get us out of here before the Downton Abbey finale. So I'm going to get on it. Right? But I do want to say, initially, I have a great deal of affection for Holy Trinity, and much thanks for your genuine and kind welcome to me, and of course, Jim has been a tremendous support of me since I've arrived, and it's been 2.5 years now, almost 3 years. It's kind of hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun. So I'm going to make 3 shifts now, okay? I'm going to talk a little bit about the primates meeting you may know about that transpired a couple months ago in January. I'm going to review a little bit of where the diocese is with respect to an emerging vision that is coming out of what the diocese is saying we ought to be pursuing as a people. And then I'm going to reflect a little bit on my really favorite gospel reading, parable that we just heard about the prodigal son. The question is, who really is the prodigal? That's my question. So the primates meeting, do you know about this? There was a gathering of the primates of the Anglican Communion. We are, as you know, members of the Anglican Communion, and we continue to be members of the Anglican Communion, regardless of what the primates want to say. Which is a lot, apparently. There are 4 instruments of unity that make up the worldwide Anglican Communion. There are 4 instruments of unity. One is the Archbishop of Canterbury, who was appointed by the sovereign of England. The head of the church, of course, is Jesus Christ, but the Queen, actually, is our temporal sort of head of the church, not the Archbishop of Canterbury. He in this case, is appointed and nominated by the Queen. And so, but the Archbishop of Canterbury, is our primary instrument of unity. So That is one way in which we are gathered together, is under the Archbishop of Canterbury. The second is every 10-year meeting of the bishops, the worldwide bishops who are in relationship with the Archbishop of Canterbury, which includes me and all the bishops of the Episcopal Church, of which there's 100 and something of us. And so that Lambeth Palace gathering is the second of the instruments of unity. The third is the primates gathering, and the primates, or primates, as they may have acted like it. Primates are those like Michael Curry. Michael Curry, who is our presiding bishop from North Carolina, right, is our primate. And there are about 37 or 8 of those around the world in different parts, different provinces around the world. Canada, Australia, in Africa, in Europe, and so forth and so on. And so they make up the primates, and they meet annually or so, or roughly. And then the fourth is what's known as the Anglican Consultative Council, which is sort of like a vestry or a diocesan council. It's made up of lay people and clergy from around the world. Okay? And so what happened was, just briefly, is that the primates are taking exception to what we did in General Convention this summer regarding the issues of sexuality and marriage rights. And what we basically did was we've been talking about this for about 4 decades now. This didn't just happen. This has been a conversation that's been ongoing for many, many years. We expanded our understanding of marriage. Expanded, didn't change, expanded. And have created rights that can be used for folks who are of same gender who wish to have their relationship blessed. And so that's what we did, and I continue to support that decision. I am committed to being open and inclusive of all people, recognizing we are all vulnerable and tender and in constant need of mercy and forgiveness. This is what God and Jesus continually teaches us. The Anglican Communion, quite frankly, is a quirky deal. We're just kind of a quirky thing. We are an autonomous collective of churches whose authority rests locally. So the primates have no authority over us. The Bishop of Michigan in Detroit has no authority here. I have no authority there. I am the authority here with the council, the diocesan council, and the standing committee of lay people. That's the authority here. It's localized. The primates have no authority to sanction anyone. They only comprise one of the instruments of unity. We as Anglicans, and this is really, really important, this is hard for people to get. We have no litmus tests for right belief or correct understanding. Right? And so to be sanctioned for a belief is un-Anglican, actually. And there's absolutely no power or authority by which they can carry out the sanctions. We've been sort of theoretically put in time out, but we haven't. I had a response. I wrote a response, and my initial response was not positive. And I was kind of indignant about the whole thing. Who are you to tell me I can't? Right? You know what I mean? But then as I thought about it, I realized, as a white American heterosexual male, I've never really experienced any form of discrimination. I've not experienced discrimination, not really, except for being a priest and a bishop. I have access to great privilege, based simply on the fortunes of my birth. And this limiting action, or intent, by the primates does not sit well with folk like me who are accustomed to privilege. Right? I'm speaking to the American context. Okay? So I have to measure my personal response over and against those who experience discrimination daily. Women, people of color, people who have choose to love in ways that are maybe different from the majority of folk. Experience discrimination every day. So I need to realize and humbly do everything I can in my thanksgiving to God for the many blessings that I've been received. So I didn't do anything. To take action to help end discrimination in any form. To use the privilege that I've been given to help end discrimination in any form. We're not going to change anything. I was just in India about a month ago now, it seems, because I wanted to say we are continuing our work in the worldwide Anglican community. We're not withholding money. We're staying in the relationship. We're going to focus on our mission. We're going to continue to stay in the relationship. We don't all have to agree. That's what makes us Anglican. One last thing, a recent development just happened about 2 weeks ago, which is to say that the current chair of the Anglican Consultative Council, who is a bishop from Africa, Tenga Tenga, I think is his name. It's a great name. Recently said that there will be a meeting of the Anglican Consultative Council, and the Episcopal Church is, of course, going to be invited to participate, despite what the primates have suggested, and that yes, we will have voice and vote, and we will fully participate as we should. So, and said that the primates really don't have any authority. They can say what they want, but that's okay. They live, so the majority of the primates live in a completely different context than we live in, right? In Africa, there's huge stigma around the issues of HIV/AIDS, right? And so there's a whole different thing. There's a whole other thing around Islam and how it is being lived out in that part of the world than it is here. It's a totally different context. So there's some reaction there, I think. So I know that some people have been very worried that we're no longer Anglicans. Don't worry. We're still good. Okay? All right. So I got that one done. That wasn't too painful, was it? Did I even need to do that?
Yes.
I felt like I kind of do. I want to make sure that people are clear about it. It's important. Yeah. All right, the second thing is our convention in November. We had a really great convention. It was about how to start a movement. That was the theme of convention. How do we start a movement? And we discussed in my convention address, I laid out sort of where we've been heading and what's kind of going on in the diocese as a result of work that we are doing together. And it's kind of exciting. One of the most exciting things is that there's a shift that's taking place in our culture as a diocese. We are finding that it's okay for us to work together, right? And you guys are a perfect example of that, right? With the work that you're doing with Holy Spirit up in Belmont, right? This is a way in which we recognize that things can't be the way they always were. There is sort of an Episcopal congregationalism. Do you know what I mean? Where you just want to be like this. We just want to, it's like it's a social club. Right? And we just want to hold on to our little club. We can't be like that anymore. I'm actually getting ahead of myself. But there is a growing willingness for us to work together, to collaborate, and to share resources, and to explore shared ministries. This is really, really healthy and hopeful, and I'm really, really happy that you are leaders in that. My deep and abiding hope for our community as a diocese is that we individually grow closer to God by practicing the rule of life, and grow closer to one another, strengthening our trust and bonds of affection, so that we might faithfully act in the world as the body of Christ. It's all about relationships for me. It's all about relationships. You are Holy Trinity, which defines our understanding of God, which is to say that God is an intimate relationship of persons, a community of persons, out of which love emanates. where heaven is found is in the community of relationships. You see what I'm saying? Relationships are the thing. They define who we are. And it defines who you are as the people of Holy Trinity. So there's a number of things that came out as sort of line items that we want to focus on. I'm going to break it down for you real quick, okay? Then I'm going to start with the primary thing that you all said, the diocese says, we want better communication as a diocese. We want to communicate better with one another. We want to better communicate. And that involves a couple of areas. First is internal communication, and second is external communication. Internal communication involves two things. One is how we communicate with God. Are we taking seriously, or how are we taking seriously, our relationship with God? What does that look like? It can't just be on Sunday when it's convenient, or often not. It has to be an ongoing, everyday thing. That's why I talk about a rule of life. And people are saying, yeah, we want to take that serious. What does that look like? Internal communication. What is my relationship with God? And then secondly, how do we communicate together better as a diocese? Internal communication. Okay? Two forms. Private and then corporate. Secondly, external. How do we communicate ourselves, what we're doing, who we are, our spiritual giftedness, out into the world? How does it make expression? That's part of the question of communication. And then secondly, in the other part, how do we as a diocese communicate who we are out in the world? What we're doing, what we're about in the world, so people know. So internal, personal, and corporate. External, personal, and corporate. Does that make sense? That's the number one thing. Lots of things coming behind that too. Number two, reaching younger generations. Reaching younger generations. It's got to be a priority for us. It has to be a priority. It seems pretty self-evident, doesn't it? If we want to leave this trust we've been given, we must actively reach out to younger generations. We must reach out to younger generations, which means we might have to change things. This is where it gets scary. Maybe Sunday morning isn't the best time for worship. I don't know. I'm wondering. Yeah. Maybe we need to find ways to incorporate young people more fully into the life of the congregation. I don't know. It's going to be kind of crazy. We're going to have to look at it. It's something we have to do. People say to me, Bishop, we just need younger people. We just need young families in here. That's all we need. If we could just do that. So you make that happen for us. You know? I'm like, look, just go out and be wonderful, Bishop, okay? And attract everybody in here. I'm trying. But I'm not that wonderful. I mean, I'm pretty wonderful. But here's the thing. What's behind that is, what we really want, Bishop, is young people with young families to come in here so they can pay the bills when we go. See what I'm saying? So we can maintain the institution, the club. If that's what the purpose, we're done already. Right? Okay. Younger generations, we got to figure out how to do this. Caring for our neighbors. This is number 3. Caring for our neighbors and nature by focusing on food, water, and shelter. That this is absolutely a critical movement that we have to continue to focus on. And quite frankly, we as a diocese do this really, really well. And this is where I come back to Reverend Brad. Thank you for organizing and helping carry out a truckload of water to Flint. That was awesome. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what the diocese is talking about. That we have to take seriously our stewardship of our stuff. Not just our stuff, but the stuff that we have, that we hold in trust. Right? And we live in a place where water defines us. Literally defines us. Right? 20 or 30% of the world's fresh water is around here, and Flint, Michigan doesn't have fresh water? How is that even possible? Right? How is that even possible? So, this sort of idea is to say we need to focus ourselves on food, water, shelter. And you guys are doing that as a way of saying that this is how we're going to meet the needs of the world around us and take seriously our responsibility for the things that we have. Okay? Good. So that you're okay? Good? All right. Speaking of which, the fourth thing, is raising up a deacon in every parish as a catalyst for mission. Right? So, deacons are those who are out in the world pointing to where there is need and saying, hey y'all, let's go there. Look at that. There's people who are hungry, naked, whatever. There are people who are lonely, isolated, without, whatever. We have got to go there. We've got to go there. And the idea of raising up a deacon is to say we need someone in our congregations who can be a catalyst for helping us move out. I call them a disturbance of deacons. Isn't that clever? I wish I could own that one. I stole it. But it's really good. A disturbance of deacons. We've got to carry out into the world what we know about the grace of God. The church can simply no longer be a worship club. And the Spirit is moving. And there is a movement away from 1940s, 50s sensibility about what is church, which was in many ways social club. That's not where we can be anymore. We can no longer sustain that. We have to be about the gospel good news, which is going out into the world. If our sole purpose as church is to gather on Sundays, then we've not heard the gospel imperative to go and spread the good news. If we are focused on church maintenance or on church survival, then our congregations will most assuredly die. If we do not seek to share ourselves and our stuff in the service of others, then we are merely a worship club and not much more. Sorry, I just went to meditate on that one. The last area is defined as asset mapping. This is kind of weird. Now, this is sort of a corporate thing. But part of it is in three categories: asset mapping. And it goes to communication and stewardship of resources. And it's broken down in three areas. The first is, wouldn't it be really interesting if we invited the diocese in each congregation to do a spiritual gift inventory, each individual. A spiritual gift inventory. It's like a little tool to help us figure out, well, what is our giftedness in the Spirit? What is it that God's calling me maybe to do? Can I identify what that is? I think that would be really cool if we knew what it was that God was empowering us to do and be. We can no longer make any excuses. See, here it is. This is what it is. How can that be employed in the service of God and others? Spiritual gifts inventory. The second is, what about if we just listed all the ministries that we do in the diocese? Because there's a ton of things that we're doing in the diocese. If we just sat down and said, okay, Holy Trinity, list them out. What y'all doing over here? And over there at Holy Cross, and up there at Holy Spirit, and down the street in St. Mark's, and all the places. What are we doing? What you'll find is we're doing a heck of a lot. A heck of a lot. And that would help us communicate to the larger world what the Episcopal Church is and what we're about and how we're spreading the gospel out of the world. You see? The last one is the third area in asset mapping is maybe we should also, while we're listing things, just list what our assets really are. Physical, financial assets. So you all have some serious assets here, right? This property is valuable, and it's going up probably every day in value because of your location. Do we know what it's worth? I'm wondering. You may know. But do we as a diocese know what the values of our stuff are. What is it that we have? Do we have rectories? Do we have land? Do we have X amount of money in the bank and some trusts? What is the state of our HVAC system and our roof and our organ? Do we have a plan and a strategy to address those things? Right? Listing our hard assets. The fear is, of course, is that the bishop wants to know this so they can come and get it. I don't want it. It's actually already mine. Not mine, ours. I'm just responsible for it. That sounded really bad. I know it's being taped. That's going to be out on the web tomorrow. It's already mine. The bishop is coming to get it. No. What's behind all of those three things is we live in a time in which we see scarcity. Oh, we don't have enough. I hear it every time I go somewhere. We don't have enough. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough people. We don't have enough young people. We don't have enough money. We're getting older. The numbers are dropping. Whiny. No, wrong. You're looking at it wrong. Wrong. Not you, but in general. You. We look at it wrong. We have a lot. As a matter of fact, we already have everything we need. Right? We have everything we need. And so listing it all out so that we can see, I think might shift our worldview to say, oh, it's not that we don't have enough. It's like, look what we have. And wow, isn't it awesome? This is amazing. See how God is blessing. Okay, last move. You ready? Do you talk amongst yourselves for a second? How about some calisthenics? Some stretching? I'm not doing too bad. Like what? I've only been about 5 minutes, right? All right, ready for some preaching now? I'm going to start.